Hey everyone, welcome or welcome back. I'm FinTech, and today I'm going to be talking about financial independence, retire early, or FIRE. I'm going to go over what the FIRE movement is, how it got started, and how I got involved with it, and then I'm going to try to help you determine if FIRE is right for you. So let's not waste any time and jump right into defining what financial independence, retire early means. And let's start now. Hey, transitions. Financial independence, retire early, or FIRE is both a mindset and a movement of people seeking to escape the wheel of working 45 years just to maybe have the chance to retire in their 70s and 80s. The fear is that by the time you reach that age, you're already too old to really enjoy your retirement, and you'll end up feeling like you just wasted your entire life working in the hopes of saving up enough money that you could sit at home in your 70s and 80s. Now, the FIRE movement was born out of the 1992 best-selling book Your Money or Your Life by Vicki Robin and Joe Dominguez. In this book, they talk about how every time you spend your money on something, you're making the choice to sacrifice however much time it took you to earn that money at work just to make that purchase. By saving a far greater percentage of your income than just the normal 15% towards retirement, you can effectively reduce the number of hours you need to work during your lifetime. Now, whether that means working fewer hours in a week or, in most cases, retiring early. There are many examples within the FIRE community of people saving 50, 60, 70% of their income so that they can retire much earlier than was previously thought possible in older generations. Now, on the surface, these savings rates may seem extreme, but once you dive in a little bit into the reasons behind these savings rates, they start to make a little bit more sense. Now, a quick pause here. If you're enjoying this video, I'd really appreciate it if you would hit the like button and consider subscribing. Likes and comments both count as engagement for the YouTube algorithm, and it causes YouTube to push this video out to a wider audience. All right, that's it. Back to the video. Just by going on r/FIRE on Reddit and sorting by the top posts of all time, you can see several examples of people saving $500,000 or $1 million by age 40, age 39, or some even younger than that. The way they do this is by saving a large amount of their money early on and using compound interest to their advantage to grow their net worth. Basically, the younger you start this, the bigger an advantage you'll have in building your net worth over time. Now, I have an earlier video where I walked through step by step how you can become a millionaire, and that dives a little bit deeper into these kinds of concepts. But basically, once you save up enough money and invest it, at a certain point, the interest that you make off your investments will equal the amount of money that you would work by working a job. So at that point, you can effectively retire and just get paid indefinitely by your investments. So I actually first got started in FIRE, I think a little bit differently from most. It wasn't because I hated my job or because I had some insurmountable amount of debt and wanted to get better control of my financial situation. It actually all started from an article I read on something called the Hedonic Treadmill. The Hedonic Treadmill is used to describe human behavior and the fact that no matter how many good things or bad things happen to someone, people tend to return relatively quickly to a normal level of happiness. To give you a financial example, let's say that you're working a job that pays you $40,000 each year, and then all of a sudden you get a $5,000 bonus. So you take that bonus and you go on vacation, and you're happy for a while. But then let's say you start getting that bonus every single month and taking a vacation every month. Well, eventually the novelty kind of wears off, and you don't get the same happiness from taking your 16th vacation as you did from your first one. Let's say then that you got a huge raise and you started making $100,000 each year. So you started going out and buying nice clothes, moving into a nicer apartment, maybe eating out at restaurants every week. Again, for a while, this is going to increase your happiness, but over time, you're going to start getting used to these things, and they won't provide you the same joy that they did at first. You'll return to a normal level of happiness over time. Basically, no matter how much money you make, things will never bring you long-term happiness. They just give you small spikes of happiness, which eventually go away. When you really embrace this concept, it really goes to show that there's no point in spending all your time working to earn nice things when those nice things won't really bring you long-term happiness. Instead, it's more important to focus on being happy with what you have and focus on what things actually bring you long-term happiness in your life. Now, for me, I realized that the thing that brings me the most happiness is having the freedom to do what I want with my time. I actually enjoy working, but in an ideal world, I would be allowed to work whenever I want and only on projects that I'm interested in. Now, obviously, this isn't reasonable in normal working world with deadlines and standard working hours and timesheets. But I realized that instead of using my money to buy nice things, maybe I can use it to buy something that actually brings me happiness. Buying back my own time. Now, the nice thing about FIRE is it's not overly complicated to get started. Once you get a few assumptions out of the way, you really only need to focus on two numbers: how much you spend and how much you save each year. So let's walk through some examples. For this, I'm going to use an early retirement calculator, which I found online, called Networthify. I'm sure there's a lot of other good examples out there, and really you could just use a normal compound interest calculator. Now, before we use this calculator, we need to make a couple assumptions. You can just use the defaults that they have set here, but I think that we can dial in these numbers a little bit better. So let's get those assumptions out of the way first. One of the most important aspects of the FIRE movement is the idea of building compound interest on your investments. Basically, let's say you invest $100 in year one and you make 10% on that investment. That means that you earn $10 back. Now, let's say in year two, you invest an additional $100. This means that this year, you're going to make 10% on your new total, which is $210, which means you're going to make $21 in the second year. In the third year, if you invest $100, you'll make even more in interest. In the fourth year, even more than that. And that will compound on itself over time to grow your money exponentially. So that's where the first assumption comes in. How much interest can you assume that you're going to make on your money each year? Well, if you look at the average return over the stock market over a long time horizon, it returns around 8% on average. So let's use that number as our rate of return. The next number that you need to figure out is once you build up your money for retirement, what percent of that are you going to pull out each year for expenses? This number, known as your withdrawal rate, determines how much money you will have to live on during retirement. Now, most people agree that around a 3.5% withdrawal rate will allow you to withdraw money from your retirement savings forever without ever actually depleting your retirement savings. This is because your investments continue to produce interest each year, and the amount of interest they produce covers the amount that you pull out each year. So now all we have to do is put in your annual expenses and your annual savings, and this calculator will automatically calculate how many years it will take for you to retire based on your current spending. So let's say our take-home pay is $50,000 and we save $20,000 of that every year, meaning that our annual expenses are $30,000. Well, this calculator shows that in around 19 and a half years, you will have enough money saved up that it will generate $30,000 a year in interest that you can live on. Remember, that means that after 19 and a half years, you can stop putting money into savings and you can spend $30,000 every single year for all eternity without running out of money. At this point, you are entirely financially independent. What's interesting about this calculator is it also lets you compare how many years it will take to retire if you change how much you save each year. For example, let's use the average savings rate in India of 32%. Well, it would take 23 years to retire. Let's then use the average savings rate in the US of only 6%. It would take almost 47 years to retire. And that's the thing about FIRE. Ultimately, the more money you save, the sooner you can reach financial independence. And that is what leads many to save 50, 60, 70% of their income every single year. But what if you want to be a little bit less extreme? Well, there are some other subcategories within the larger financial independence movement which might be better suited to you. First is Fat FIRE, which basically means retiring on a really high income but still saving a good chunk of money every year. To be honest, basically the only way to achieve this is to have a really high income during your working years and to save a lot of it. Now, on the flip side of that is Lean FIRE, which basically seeks to cut expenses as much as possible to move up the retirement date to as soon as possible. This helps you both save up money faster and reduces the amount of expenses that you're going to need to save for in retirement. This movement ties in very closely with financial minimalism. Now, some different options if you don't necessarily want to stop working completely are Baristify and CoastFi. With this method, you save up enough money to cover your retirement in old age, but while you're young and still in your working years, you still work a side job that just covers your living expenses. Now, I made a whole video on this, on why this might actually be the most practical method and why it may be the one that leads to the greatest sense of self-fulfillment. If you have any experience with the financial independence movement, maybe you're currently in it, maybe you know somebody who's achieved financial independence, or maybe you're just starting to look into it right now, let me know in the comments. I read and respond to all of them. With that said, I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe learned something. If you did, make sure to leave a like so other people can see this video too. And if you don't want to miss out on any future videos, make sure to both subscribe and hit the notification bell. I'll see you next time.